Right, guys, Crusty Old Crow back again. How you doing? Look, thanks very much for all the response and the comments for the videos of late, and congratulations on hitting my little teeny tiny milestone of 100 viewers. It's a little teeny tiny one, but it's massive to me, and not viewers, pardon me, subscribers, and really meant a lot. So thank you again to everybody, those of you who stuck with the channel since the start, and those of you who are just joining. I appreciate all of you. Thanks again. I owe an apology to one of you, D-Mac. You sent a really good comment talking about, you called me out on Doc. You're right. It wasn't an official release. I was confused a little bit about it. It was one that's been rumored to be in the thought process, and people are wanting it, but there's been no official announcement. Just a lot of speculation around Doc. And with that speculation, I find those guys over at Viper Island usually really good at calling the ball, and I think they believe, as I do, that Doc is going to be here. By this time next year, we have this same conversation. I think you're going to see Doc sitting on this little platform. Anyways, enough about that. So, guys, really quick, I am winging these things. I really appreciate how it goes. I see the time slot down in that bottom right corner when you pick the video, and I know you guys are going into this knowing either I'm going to fast forward, I'm going to listen to every word they're saying, but the guy's on to something, and I appreciate that you guys ride out with it, ride me, whoa, ride this out with me. Okay, so 82 is done. 83, 84 I went on about. You notice I did 82. I had some theories about what they could do with the missing figures, and I showed you some Google images because I don't own any of my images. And then 83 and 84, I really didn't do that. I'm going to take this jacket off while we talk. And the reason being is because most of that wave we have seen, or we are about to see, and we've seen what Hasbro is doing about it. So there was really little breathing room for me to really work in there, and that wound up being a 45-minute video anyways, because it was the 2 years captured together. So I'm going to carry on in that vein, because today we got a little bit more, because I do have some characters that haven't been addressed in the 85-86 line. And so today we're going to talk about the 85-86 line. And I'm going to throw some concepts at you every now and then. But let's go back to 1985 and get it out of the way, how I believe 1985 was all about Joe. Okay, so the top movie back then was Back to the Future. How is that about Joe? Well, guys, I have a theory. I think that was Joe's first real crossover. And when I say first real crossover, I mean like going back, and I am reaching for a crossover here, but what if where Doc got that uranium for his flux capacitor and for the DeLorean, we know that those were terrorists and he had linked up, but what if that was Destro's guys? What if those were Crimson Guard disguised? Oh my God, there you go. That would make perfect sense. It's a G.I. Joe crossover. I'm done. Don't even try and convince me otherwise. Don't do it, Marty. So 85, top song, Careless Whisper by Wham. How is that relevant to Joe? All right, so we're about to come into the days of mainframe, and eventually we're going to get, what's his name? Dial Tone in here, right? But we already got Breaker, and this is about ComSec, guys. Communication security, encrypting, making sure your crypto's in your radios. A careless whisper could lose the war. So Wham brought us that little tribute to Joe in 85. In 86, the top movie was Top Gun. Do I need to get into this? Really? How Top Gun is Joe? Listen, I'm going to tell you my biggest thing about the Sky Striker right now is that canopy didn't have a spring to launch it off. And I felt that was a big insult, because how do you think they lost Goose in Top Gun? You could act that out in G.I. Joe, you know, Ace ejects, but that second seat's not going anywhere. So very much a Joe thing. Sorry if it got grim, but the facts are facts, guys. I don't make this shit up. This is all true. 86 for the songs. Dionne Warwick and Friends. This was practically the Joe theme song, except people wanted a more heavy metal beat, but that's what his Friends Are For, was the biggest hit in 86, believe it or not. Through good times, through bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what Joes are for. There you go, guys. That's my little brush at humor. Okay, so 85, 86, I think I've told you where we are. why don't we look at some pictures? So let's talk about who came out in the 85 line and where we stand with them today. And maybe I'll just quickly grab some ideas and concepts I wanted to talk about with you on them, okay? And you see I've got what I have represented from the classified line right here with a bit of 85 and 86 over here. And yeah, that's Viper's Mocking Barbecue. Poor Barbecue, man. I feel bad for Barbecue. All right, so I'm going to just quickly jam over to closer to you, and we're going to talk about who we got already. And again, I don't own these images. I think this is off Yo Joe. It's one of their anthology collection sites where they show all the Joes, the original Joes, and I can't thank them enough. But let's just talk about the... I'm going to save Airtight to the end with Footloose and possibly another. I'll talk about the ones that I had ideas for. But Alpine, we know that we are getting Alpine next year, and we're all excited. I haven't seen the digital renders per se. I don't have them to share with you. But who couldn't be excited about Alpine, having your mountain climber? This guy, I could see him being a deluxe kit. He's got a lot of gear, and I think there's going to be a lot of play value and diorama value in that one. Barbecue, we know we've got Barbecue. He's been a part of that set for a while now. He came out in the original colors as part of the Cobra Islands series, and that was early in the series. And now we also got the Slaughter's Marauders version, and that's the one you see in my collection. Moving on, we got Bazooka. You know we got two different types of Bazooka. We got the Tiger Force Bazooka and the OG Bazooka. You guys have heard me talk about how this was, this is what blocked Zap, if you ask me, from the original group in the first 82 line. Bazooka, I think, is the problem that keeps Zap from coming. Buzzer, well, I just did a review on Buzzer, and you're not done seeing more on Buzzer lately, but he was a part of that line. Then we go down, and we got the Crimson Guard, and yeah, I picked up a couple of those covert agents that are in parade dress right now. I firmly believe that if we were to follow the lore, we need some plainclothes Cobra operatives. Dusty, we've got a couple different variants of Dusty now, just as we do with the Cobra Guard, or the Crimson Guard. They're also in Python Patrol. With Dusty, we have a Tiger Force variant. We have the original variant. There he is, creep next to Timber on my display there. Moving on, who did we also get? We got the eels. My God, these things went into demand quick. I cannot find one anywhere anymore, and I'm kicking myself for having passed by it when I did see it on the shelves at my local GameStop. I just really thought this wouldn't be the hot cake item of the series, but of course it was. I really thought that everybody getting Torpedo first would kind of dull a little bit, but how dumb of me. Of course, Torpedo needs to be outnumbered. Flint we got in the series, and I remember getting mine. You guys remember getting yours. I think by far this was one of the coolest ones we had in the series for Joe. Just going to move that light out of the way for a second. There we go. Maybe that'll reduce some of the glare. So yeah, Flint we got. I'm going to save my comments on Footloose. We'll get into... Where are we here? Lady J, and you can see we got her. We have this version of Lady J available currently in the retro line, not the classified line. The classified line is a more modernized version, and this is what I've been saying about the whole kit and caboodle, guys. Classified has come out, Hasbro has come out and said Classified will be a more modernized take on the Joe line, and basically that just means if you really want to kick back and have your old school 82 mirrored variant in a current form, you're going to go over to the retro line. So you can see as Hasbro really picks up steam and they've opened the taps this year, the more changes are due, the more likely you're going to start seeing some more retro, perhaps a bigger release wave in the retro line down the road, I'm hoping, for the purists. Anyways, Quick Kick was next on my list. We're getting into him next, and we have seen the digital renders for that available online. If you type in Quick Kick Classified, you'll have them up there. We got Ripper, the next Dreadnought, the one that's already up for, well, he's been up for pre-order. He's out now in several areas. I should be picking up mine very soon, but I haven't gotten the notification he's in yet. Shipwreck, God love Shipwreck. We got him. He's out. Okay, Snake Eyes Timber, the part of the Arctic Commando Snake Eyes. We've got that. We've got so many Snake Eyes, man. Vegas is pissed with that odds, right? Who else did we get in that wave? Oops, sorry. There we go. The Snow Serpent. We're getting a couple different hits on the Snow Serpent right now. We've got the one that's direct to retail deluxe set, the troop build with the camera here, with all the extra wolf parts for storytelling. And we've got the retro line coming with this version of the Snow Serpent that I'm showing you here. The Televiper, as you know, that came out in the Flight Pod, and it's been recast as a Python Patrol as well. Tomax and Zaymont, we got them. They were sold separately this time, not in the part of the dual pack. And I really didn't respect the move, especially. I looked at Amazon. And what they want for Tomax and Zaymont is often two completely different prices as two single figures, guys. They want like $1 more for one or the other. It's always very strange when I see that. Dreadnought, which Dreadnought is that? Oh my God, I had that Monkey Wrench. No, sorry, Torch, pardon me, Torch. Yeah, we're not there yet. Torch, we know Torch is coming. He's going to be coming with some new flame effects, and I have not seen these flame effects yet, but this is going to be exciting for a lot of the guys that like the photography and setting up the dioramas, because those flame effects will go on to future figures, perhaps a future, what was his name? Not Barbecue, the other one? Charbroil? Oh God, I just did him. Anyways, I can't think of them. And also that year, we got another version of Tripwire as part of a Listen and Fun acoustic set. So very interesting year for 86, or so for 85. So I said I would talk about two figures in certain. I'm going to go back. I'm going to talk about Airtight for a second and what he could be if we ever see him. So the thing about Airtight, guys, is he is a nuclear, biological, and chemical kind of trooper. He's CBRN. So he deals with the biological and chemical weapon threats and nuclear, if a nuclear detonation ever were to occur. So he's going to be compatible with the Night Force. If the Night Force, all the Night Force have their gas masks, that's where he falls in. But those colors on the character are going to be... they're going to be a tough sell, because they're not, I think guys can get excited for it, but they're going to have to modernize his equipment. I'm going to tell you why. What he's got in his hand right now is some sort of old school chemical thing. The only image I could find of something like that, and guys, I am qualified on some NBC stuff from my previous career. So I kind of know where I'm looking when I'm looking at stuff, like, whoa, I should look for this. So I want to try and find the picture, because he's basically using that to wash a vehicle, guys. Like, it's I don't know what hose that is, but it looks like one of our pressure washers at best, and I could see it being something that could, like some sort of device he's using to spray decontaminant or get a read on the what chemical is currently being used out there. But they've got it up like a gun with a trigger mech, which just confuses the shit out of me. So to modernize an Airtight, make them viable in today's G.I. Joe classified line, I would look at a couple of things, guys. I would look at what the current nuclear, biological, chemical detection equipment is, what CBRN teams are using, like CGI here, or pardon me, I'm assuming that's... it's okay for me to mention these guys, but basically the detection equipment that they're using. And I know in my days in the Armored, especially Recce, one of our subtasks was to do nuclear biological surveying and things like that. And we had our vehicles, they actually had systems in there that could detect radiation levels and other contaminants in the air. They were positioned within our vehicle to, keep the crew alert and let us know if we had to put on our gas mask and switch to air circulation and things like that, right? So we would have riggins. It's not quite like that, but similar for our gas mask that would hook up. And we would have things like that in our vehicle that would tell us the readout. But this is where I'm going with Airtight. Airtight would need some sort of survey gear. And this is one I'm very familiar with. It's the Noveler, right? You just wave it around. Oh, there's chemicals here, right? But if we get into it, like modern decontam teams still are very military looking, and even the CDC ones, and that's what he looks like more than anything is CDC, right? I think the modern classified line needs to have an updated airtight to even make them work. And I think there's a risk factor involved with that based off what we've seen with Tripwire. He's one of those unique brand characters that they only fit a certain role, right? So you're trying to jam them in with your Joes, and here's Airtight's color, right? It's going to be a tough fit, but if you just made him a direct standard Joe Fig, I think it would work out fine. But he's definitely something that needs modernizing, and given his role, I think he could come out as a Night Force release a lot more palatably, just to test the market on that. And that's, I think, the first time I've ever said do a repaint before the original, but the original was kind of a bold stroke, right? The next guy I'm going to talk about is good old Footloose. Listen to his card because I identify with Footloose here, all right? Andrew Myers is an infanteer with a military secondary specialty in special services. I don't identify with that. He's also from Gary, Indiana, nowhere near me. He was a basketball coach, right? So he's big into sports and everything like that. That also I don't identify with. I liked sports, but I wasn't very good. Myers was a valedictorian of his high school class, not me, captain of his track team, and an Eagle Scout. Yeah, I did stuff like similar to that. He was going for his degree in phys ed on a state scholarship when suddenly dropped out, moved to the coast, and became quite weird for about 3 years. He was standing on the boardwalk in Venice, pondering something cosmic when the utter pointlessness of his existence hit him between the eyes like a runaway freight train. And he said, "I think I'll join the army." And promptly he did. Took basic and AIT at Fort Benning, graduated jump school, desert training unit, qualified expert in all NATO, Warsaw Pact small arms. Some of the Joes think that Footloose is out there, but all he's really trying to do is find himself. He's an all-American boy that got lost on the way to the fair, and he's simply trying to go home any which way he can. Many folks think they know who they are and where they're going from. They're the dangerous ones. Man, that gets me right there. Like, forget all the high school successes he was having, that lost for 3 years and saying, my God, everything is pointless. I'm so small in the cosmos, and I gotta do something, right? I remember that feeling, very similar feeling in my life when I was in that little pit of despair going, how relevant am I in the world and what am I doing? Oh my God, I didn't even have a plan. And you end up in the army, right? Because I think it's the same for a lot of guys that join the army. At some point, the smart little voice in your brain overrides everything else and says, bro, you need some discipline, man. You're doing things your way and it's leading you nowhere. Go get some discipline, right? And so just that little revelation about Footloose I thought was interesting. But Footloose, we have a lot of infantry in our Joe. So where's the priority for Hasbro to put out a Footloose? There's not. He's going to be in the midst of your grunts, your breakers, your rock and rolls. He's going to fit in well there. But you had that scrim on that helmet. You want to retain that. And sorry, guys, I got to plug Canada a little bit. There's our Canadian guys, our Army recce patrols, right? And they do talk about it. He's done recon stuff, right? So there you go. You got, you definitely got some potential. But I think as far as a demand, I don't know. I don't know when to expect Footloose, really. I hope soon. I like the character. But as far as a redundancy level as their current releases, I could see that being a bit of a problem. Yeah, I could see it. So that's where we're going with the figures for the 85 line. I'm going to jump into the figures of the 86 line, and then I'm going to go into the vehicles for both lines at the end. So the figures for the 86 line, is that this photo? Is it? It is. This is where remembering when the 82 line came out and 83, everything was still Joe, but 80, 84, 85, 86, Cobra was coming. And this was a floodgates of some key core characters for Cobra, right? As well as Joe. But a couple were talking about the bats. That satisfaction of seeing troops fall down could only be fulfilled in animation in the era if those things weren't human. You could not have blood and you could not represent killing, but shooting up androids you could do all day, and the bats presented this infinite universe of idea as far as, how big could these battles get? And of course, Classified has brought us the original Black Bat, and then the Crimson Bat, and the Python Patrol Bat, and the Arctic Bat, and we have a lot of bats, and they've made them all very cross-compatible, and it's almost worth getting a different type of bat every time, just to increase your favorite bat's arsenal. I mean, for God's sakes, I put the Arctic bat's head on the Crimson one, and it hasn't come off since, right? So the bats were out. Beachhead, I'm very excited for a beachhead because the first one for the Cobra Island early in the series is like, it's like a his tank. He's made of an unobtainium, right? He's going to be very difficult to get, very pricey to get, but I'm considering paying up to $200 for him if that's the only way I'm going to get him. It is what it is. But we are rumored to be getting a beachhead in the retro card line, and it's expected that he'll look somewhat like that. So no beret and all that kind of stuff. I'm excited for that idea. Dial tone is one I'm going to talk about for a second. So dial tone is another comms officer or communications guy. He had a bigger radio than Breaker. He was replacing Breaker as I saw it in the line. And I didn't really appreciate him, but I loved his beret and I liked his weapon. But how do you do Breaker in this classified line in a more modern way? Not Breaker, pardon me, Dial Tone. He had that big honking computer backpack, but at the same time, we're going to be bringing out Mainframe in this release, and I'll get to him later. And we're going to need to separate those two a little bit. Who's the computer guy? Who's the comms guy? Because right now, the comms guy looks like he's got a big honking computer on his back, right? I'll call that image up one more time about him, right? So if you look at Dial Tone there, got that big honking computer. And then if we go over, we're going to have another big honking computer when we get Mainframe in here. So how do we differentiate the two? Well, it's got to be modernizing them or completely retro. They're like, what you see is what you get. We don't even modernize. That's the way you're going to get these two. Either way, I think fans will be happy with the figures themselves. It's the accessories that I want to address, because I think the accessories need to be a little bit more updated. And then if you want the original accessories, go to the retro line. But an idea I had for Dial Tone was to get away from that backpack a little bit. Yeah, you could have one that holds all this gear. But just like in the movie Lone Survivor, when you've seen those guys, the SEALs doing their recce, right? Comms is friggin' important, boys. So maybe Dial Tone is there to augment Breaker and make him a better like comms setup, right? So gear like that or like that, right? So that's where I would go with Dial Tone. And for Mainframe, I might as well get him out of the way now too. Where did I have Mainframe? You got to look at what the military is using in the battlefield as far as communications. I mean, right now, a military computer specialist works basically in a jocker, talker, or in an isolated area. And he's basically working behind the scenes in operations, right? And how does that fit in with your Joes? It fits in when they get into the field computers, okay? But the problem is field computers now are much smaller, not much bigger than 85 or 86. You can see these guys are working on their, I think those are their situational awareness programs on their displays in their vehicles to let them know what the battlefield looks like where everybody is. All constantly updating, and that's great. We had them on our labs as well. But there's an example of what the Mainframe should look like, but won't, right? He'll look like the traditional Joe, but his equipment should probably reflect a more modern computer, right? And then what the big one is that helmet, right? So here's something that Mainframe could bring to the table and it would work. And I mean, it would work for Mainframe. It would work for Sci-Fi or Flash. It would, these new experimental heads-up displays. So basically, it's all your tactical and situational awareness put up on a heads-up display unit. And you can see that they're being trialed and looked at by some forces. And I have no reading on what these actually bring to the table aside from what I just described. But there's your Mainframe concept, right? So we'll go back to that line and finish where we were there. So who did I talk about? I've talked about the bat. I talked about Beachhead. I talked about Dial Tone Mainframe. Dr. Mindbender, we know, was out there, but he's one of those exclusive figurines you're going to pay an arm and a leg for to get. He's one of those deluxe, I think, PulseCon exclusives like Chuckles. And there was a re-release of him for back orders and whatnot, but even that was slow to get off the ground, and there was a lot of feedback on that from the consumers against Hasbro. So I don't think we're going to see another Dr. Mindbender, but I imagine possibly in the retro line, same as Blood. Oh my God, there's coffee in my nose. Somewhere down the line. Yeah! All right. Ryan, they're going to talk about the guy you keep talking about. Iceberg. Iceberg falls into my whole we need more winter troops theory to support Snowjob against the Arctic threat coming out of Cobra. So I can easily see Iceberg getting a prioritization in 2024, probably late 2024. Just because I really do think they're going to develop that line. Leatherneck, take everything I just said about Footloose, save the file card relatability, but throw that into a Leatherneck, same issue, same problem. We have a lot of infantry, so we shouldn't, I can't anticipate when the rest of the infantry is coming, guys. Hasbro's opened up the floodgates. It could be immediate, it could be quite a while, it just depends on how they prioritize, but I'm going to get into my prioritized right here. Lifeline. You heard me comment earlier in another, I think the last video, how Doc, and I missaid Doc is coming in when it's really, Doc is widely speculated. I would take Doc over Lifeline. Okay. Because of that whole conscientious objector thing, being in a top tier elite special unit that you had to apply for or be sought out and recruited into, I think he'd be fine in regular service as a SARTAC, search and rescue operation. So I don't see him in necessarily a military branch as much as Coast Guard, right? So Lifeline, I had him. I liked the look because he looked like the role he was filling. And I think we can get a Lifeline out there relatively easy through Hasbro, just by going with what we've seen out of the Coast Guard in the past. And I'm going to use Canadian SARTACs as an example. So there's a prime example of where a Lifeline works with modern equipment. And I'll just scroll through. This is what they do. They drop out of helicopters and save people, right? So I see Lifeline. He could keep that conscientious objector if he was just Tomahawk crew, which he is in the cartoon, bitching about the ammo, but really his role is to sit there and get ready to go down into the big deep and pull guys up, right? So I think Lifeline is a doable figure. I think it's one I would look forward to if they did stick to a genuine concept about it and leave it at that. I talked about Frostbite for a second. I'm just going to show you what I expect to see out of a Frostbite. It's a bit more of the same for the kit loadout as Snowjob and others, but just more modern, right? Guys patrolling. There's a really cool idea with the bump helmets and the masks and the weapons scrimmed up, right? So that's what I expect with Frostbite. So I'm going to digress from going back and forth on the guys like that. And I'm going to move on from, where were we? Leatherneck. Lowlight was next on there. We got Lowlight. Everybody, I've never heard anybody complain about getting Lowlight. I haven't heard anyone say they don't like Lowlight. I personally think Lowlight is a very dark character, and I'm very switched on with that. So I'd be excited to see Lowlight come out. After that, we got, I mentioned it before, Monkey Wrench. Okay, we got another Dreadnought in that line. So you can see that if we're going to hear about a new Dreadnought coming, I mean, yes, there's a lot of talk about Road Pig or Thrasher and his Thunder Machine. But Monkey Wrench, if you remember when they were auditioning in the cartoons for new Dreadnoughts, Monkey Wrench was one of the first to step up. So, yeah, I think he's coming. Roadblock, we know lots about the Roadblock character through the multiple iterations. I even forgot to mention my favorite Roadblock on the last video right there. Just not a big fan of his original gun. Rather put something else on him. Maybe a scarf. Sci-fi, take everything I said about the last video or the 82 video where I talked about what they could do with Flash and put that on Sci-fi. The Vipers, we know we have Vipers abound now. We have so many Vipers. All of the Vipers. All of the Vipers! We have them. And we're going to get more. Sorry to scream into that, but my God, I'm sick of seeing Vipers released all massively when the characters you really want are extinct on the shelves. We have so many Vipers in Ottawa, man, and I only bought the handful. Wetsuit is another one I do think should be coming soon, and I think that'll be a deluxe set. I have some supporting theories. Want to see them? Okay, you twisted my arm. With Wetsuit, if Ryan was running Hasbro right now, I'd take a look at all sorts of available gear for these divers and say, well, did we capture this between the eel and torpedo? Pretty much. So what didn't we get? How about some propulsion assistance? How about if Wetsuit's out there to get faster than torpedo, or they're working together, they need somewhere fast? How about a deluxe set with a small little prop device of some sort? Lord knows there's enough of them out there. Let's go through them. Yeah, you got that little one-man sled. They're all offloading. Look, a little two-man sled. They could tow probably 3 guys, 1 in the middle, 2 on the sides. Oh, that would work in a deluxe set, wouldn't it? There you go. We've solved Wetsuit's problem. I mean, he's got that one from the 80s, the handheld towable one. But, you know, and they'll probably do a variant of that. But modernizing and making it play value with other figures, this is where Hasbro wants to go, right? Because if you look at the marketing back in those days, a lot of it, I won't say it was subliminal advertising, it was subtle advertising, guys. And it was effective for a reason. As we go back over here, I'll get into it with the vehicles, but basically every vehicle you got, you had a subtle plug to go get some more figures. The last 2 guys we're going to talk about really quickly, Zarana and Zartana, Zartan's siblings. We know we've got Zarana already. There's been a lot of talk about Zartana, or Xandar, pardon me. Xandar coming down the line. But it almost seems like of all the Dreadnought and support type characters out there, he's very low on the list, but he's on it. I have no personal stake in that. I don't give a crap if I see him or not. I didn't really care if I saw Zartana. But once you get the figure, it's a different story, isn't it? Isn't that really what all this Joe stuff has been about? It's a different story now. They are giving us what our imaginations pictured when we were playing with the lesser sculpted ones, right? So great, that's all done for the 86 and 85 figures. So let's talk about some stuff that came out in 85 and 86 as far as accessories and vehicles, and we'll close out the video. All right, you've heard me talk about these before. Accessory packs. Yeah, let's get some classified accessory packs. Why the F not? The snake, they came out with another snake back then. I thought this was frigging hilarious. Yes, of course Storm Shadow's going to go into a snake because he realizes bullets hurt in a massive firefight. He's really good one-on-one in close combat and with places to tuck, but on a conventional battlefield, okay, sure, throw him in a snake. You had that mail-away parachute set back in that day. I didn't get this one. I was too overwhelmed by the power of my manta. And then you had all these defensive play sets that came out. I can't see classified so much as making these as maybe borrowing from these with future other sets, right? Like just borrowing from them more than anything. Let's get rid of the info out of there. So moving on, we got all that. But you see how everything was a subtle nod to a different character. Hey, you want the mortar? Do you have spirit yet? You should probably have spirit. What's that? You want this range? You mean the range that scrap iron's shooting at? You should probably get scrap iron. Oh, the platform. I had never got to see the platform as a kid. It came out, but it was overshadowed by this beast, the flag. Okay, so you had imagine. I was never, my parents, my mom didn't have this kind of money. My grandparents couldn't help. Nobody could help. Only the banks could help me ever achieve this goal of having the platform and the flag linked up in this beautiful, oh my God, my mind is just, it's all sunshines and rainbows right now. We saw the Awe Striker and Crankcase come out, and I think this one is definitely a priority for a modernized, like what they did with the Vamp. Expect it and make them do it. So buy the Vamp so they get the go ahead to buy more of these or make more of these. There you go. The Armadillo, I never cared for, but I could see some potential as this as a sort of an anti-purse, anti-air flat gun re-envisioned, but I don't care. Did you have these guys? You better go get these guys. We got, again, all these little accoutrements and accessories. But we got the toss and cross bridge layer. I thought was really cool. If you guys have never seen a bridge layer go to action, it is a timely process, but my God, you start really realizing the sheer power of hydraulics and military grade equipment built for war. And a bridge layer is just a fun time, right? And I can't remember who that was with that. Was it Toll Booth or somebody like that? Anyways, there you go. You got the bridge layer that came out in that line. What else did we get? Sears put out a different Mobat for Cobra, and it came with a driver. I don't know. But I don't even think it came with a driver. I think it was just the tank, because they usually have the window box for the driver. We are getting a ferret. We know that's in the pipe somewhere down the line, along with a driver for it. Whether they'll be separated together remains to be seen. The hydrofoil. Definitely feeling that HasLab feel to that. This was a dream for me. I kept waking up and realizing it was only a dream. Not once have I woken up to this under the Christmas tree. But I had other Joes. We were good. This night boat, Cobra Night Landing, I could see them not doing this. I could see enough 3D prints of this. I plan on scratch building one just for fun, but yeah, Firefly and this boat were synonymous to me. The Mauler tank. I had the Mobat. I dreamt of the Mauler. We all did. Getting one up here as a child in Canada, very hard to do for me. But I really wanted that. And of course, the pilot for that, I had it written down. Let me grab it. Sorry. Whatever. I'm not going to bother. I can't remember, and I've got a phone call coming. I want to get this video out for you, but same problems with the Mobat. What I said in the 82 video reoccur here, but you had two positions, right? The Silver Mirage, I don't think anybody wants this, but I think Hasbro could do it. And if Hasbro could do it, they would have to try and do something to salvage this lackluster G-Force Go Bike of whatever. This was an insult to the Ram as I saw it. Talked about that. Another set I never saw, just like the Vamp and the Hal or whatever it was, or the Vamp and the Flak, the Cobra His Tank and SMS. Didn't see it, can't see it. It is coming this way, but we're getting them separated. Whether HasLabs will do a re-release or reorders of the His Tank with this attached, we'll see. But basically, both these components are coming anyways. We know that. The Snowcat, there's my favorite contestant for a HasLab project. I talked about the potential for the tier unlocks for that, or perhaps the removal piece of that and the ability to make it into just a standard half track to carry your infantry. It's all there. I'm all for it, and it really develops that Arctic line. More of these came out, more of these little vehicles. Hey, did you have Blowtorch? That was his name, Blowtorch. Did you have him? No, you should get him. But this one, did you get the flag? This only works on the flag, guys. Go get the flag. We had a mail away for Sergeant Slaughter. More accessory packs, more of these little kits. We had the Terror Drone, right? Another big play set with the Firebat and its pilot. We got more hokey, cheap plastic kits that I can see classified staying away from. And Terror Drone, I think everybody's just going to have to make their own. Night Raven, another direct to HasLab if they'll ever do it. Same as the pilot would have to be reserved for that tier unlock. But oh my God, can you imagine? Is that where we're going to be 15 years down the road? Are we going to be at a Night Raven? And then the Cobra Stun, well, we've seen that already reflected on here with the Triple T. So we know that it's likely coming, guys. A Cobra Stun for your collection. For those of you who want a Cobra vehicle but maybe couldn't get to that HasLab, His Tank, there you go. And clearly, hopefully it'll come with its own driver. The X-30 Conquest with Slipstream, that's a much smaller fighter jet, guys. I would do this for a retail. Again, what I'm saying is, this is why the Vamp is so critical. The sales and the response to the Vamp is going to be a benchmark for what Hasbro says, green light that when it comes to vehicles in the future, and what we're going to get, right? So the X-30 is another one where I look at size and content of plastics and all the other stuff involved, and I'm thinking that's going to be a high price, but a high price is retail, I think. The devilfish, I had that as a kid. Made me want beachhead. Made me want wetsuit. I had wetsuit, at least I think. Anyways, but this was me going, I wish I had the Moray, but I love that dual engine. I could see this being a lot of guys 3D print right there of choice. And then the Havoc, which explains why the other day I kept calling Sky Striker a Havoc, and I had no idea why, because the Havoc came out in these lines. The LCV recce sled, recon sled, as a recce guy, I'm going to tell you right now, Hasbro, I do not give you a green light to make this. I give you a green light to burn the file. Okay? The Tomahawk, another direct HasLab. That'd be a great follow-up later for the Dragonfly. But now that they've got a Dragonfly out, I don't see another helicopter making that list right away. But what a great one that would be. And I think it was Lift Ticket with that. Triple T came out. And then all the Dreadnought assault vehicle sets came out, okay? So in amongst this is the Rolling Thunder Machine and Thrasher. But you look, they started doing the remolds and everything before alls. Like this, I think even was before Tiger Force was hitting and all that. If I look into it, I think Tiger Force was a couple of years later, right? So the Dreadnoughts were rehashing old Joe vehicles, old Cobra vehicles. So you got the Fang and the Sky Striker or Skyhawk, pardon me. You got the Ram, you got the Vamp or the Stinger, and then they had their own Swamp vehicle, and then the one everybody's waiting for that I think is a must do. It's going to be a retail shelf, I'm sure, just like the Vamp and Clutch. We're going to get Rolling Thunder and Thrasher, and I think that's going to be critical because it's a no-brainer because we already have our Gatling gun molds in this classify. We're seeing them. This will have at least the play feature of setting a couple figures inside, a couple more outside, just like the Vamp. So there's that playability factor. If I think they'll stick to the very traditional design. I think you'll see a couple of modern tweaks, but not much. If anything, they're going to make it look more Dreadnought-y. The reason I really get excited about this is because my biggest problem with the Dreadnoughts right now, for all what they're coming with, is they've got no place to put it without backpacks or proper loops and slungs. They got nowhere to go. So that pretty much, I think, covered all the... Ugh. There we go. Apologies. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that covers all the vehicles in that line. For 85 and 86, as best as I can figure out. So let me just go over those notes again and ask you guys a question here. Is there anybody in the 102 people right now? Did I mention Quick Kick was in that line? I did. Is there anybody in the 102 people right now that actually had the flag as a kid? Anybody? Because it's crazy. I never knew anybody that did. I had the Sky Striker and everything like that. And I've seen some really wild carpentry projects from guys with wood shops. And I'm starting to mull over the idea of doing an aircraft carrier table for my new house when we move. Because I am going to have a wood shop there. And I was thinking, God, that would be awesome. What do you guys think? Have any of you attempted any large-scale project along that line, or did any of you grow up knowing somebody with the flag? I'd be curious to know. I feel like I missed some stuff in this, guys. I do. I just can't put my finger on what it is. I feel like I didn't put enough emphasis on the Televiper, who we had released with the Flight Pod this year. And yeah, I think I got all the other stuff. Wow, that was a lot of stuff, guys. A lot of crap came out in 85 and 86. Listen, next one's going to be 87, 88. Or 87 as an individual, and then we'll see about 88. And then this week, the rest of the videos are just going to be Specfire Crow fights until Friday, where I go out and I buy another Joe, and I do my tactical perspective review. Thank you so much for sticking with this one, and for watching the other ones. I'm sure this one wasn't as fun as 82 was. But hopefully there was some stuff in there you guys liked, and thanks again for the feedback. Big shout out to all the new subscribers and to all the old subscribers. You guys are my squadron now, and the Crow appreciates every moment of the time that I take from you. All right, so but let's be honest, you willingly give it. I think you fast forward though. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video. If you like this video, hit like. If you really like it, subscribe. If you like it and think I know somebody else who like it, then you go ahead and share this video. It's fine. And we'll see you in the comment section. Chime up if you have something to say. I love it. See you soon.